to bug out, small unit tactics, first aid, a little bit of personal combat. He's got this whole bevy of skills, and it'll be 5 weekends that you do this whole series. And then in the fall, we're going to do an expedition where he'll drop us off in San Antonio or something, and then you've got to, there'll be a truck that we know about that you can go to. We've got to hotwire the truck, get out of town, go to where we put a cache, and you'll learn about and you'll learn about your cache, how to set up, what to put in a cache, how to set up a cache. If your stuff gets stolen, then you didn't learn it. Right? And then you've got to get it somewhere. There's going to be people chasing you, so there'll be this whole bad guys thing. And there'll be this whole scenario, and then we'll end up in the wilderness somewhere. We'll have to survive for a couple of days in the wilderness. So it'll be a whole week-long test out all these skills that you've learned in these intensives. And I'm talking with him now weekend workshops on our farm out there.
Where's the farm?
We're southeast of Austin, about 45 miles. So.
Yeah, because this guy's on a meetup.
Yes, Sam does a lot of stuff out of San Antonio, and he's got a whole good series of courses there.
He's starting some stuff. Yeah, he's looking for a place. I was looking at that.
Yeah, he's one closer in, which I can understand. But these are real fun. We'll pick up some good skills. Now, we just recently did a series with him on traps and snares and how to, that was really good. So, yeah, back to the question in the back.
Do you do anything to encourage pollination?
Pollination. Sex between flowers, you mean? Yeah, there's a whole thing, the whole colony collapse thing. Yeah. In my yard and garden and stuff, there's so many flowers and so much biodiversity and so, because there's just so much going on that we have a ton of pollinators there all the time. And from my perspective, if you have a real healthy landscape, you're going to attract, and we're noticing the birds this year are just crazy. We've got gazillion birds, and it's, because we have so many different food sources available for them. And the more you work with your landscape to have it be healthy and natural, the less you have to worry about. I'm concerned about it on a more global scale, because how are our crops going to get pollinated to feed the masses? We want the masses fed for as long as possible.
We don't need to if they're GMO.
Right.
So now that your whole system is up and running, how long or how many hours do you say it takes you to kind of keep it going on a daily basis? Like how many hours do you spend working?
Yeah, about 2 hours a day. And now that I've kind of got things up and running, there are times when it's more intense than others. I'm getting ready to do. I'm going to try another Three Sisters plot on a lot larger scale this time. I did a couple smaller ones in the garden. I'm going to do a bigger one. And when it comes time to plant all that stuff, I'm going to need the whole family to pitch in for a couple of hours.
And in the beginning, when you were getting started, the first few years, was it a lot more hours you spent?
I did, yeah. And a lot of it was my own stupidity and ignorance. Like I said, trying to create a huge garden. Trying to grow an acre worth, and I just worked myself ragged and couldn't keep up with any of it. So we start small. Go ahead.
What are your thoughts about hydroponic garden?
About what?
Hydroponic.
Yes. It's technology intense. One of the things I'm excited about, and I haven't had time to experiment with, is called aquaponics.
Yeah.
And that's where they grow fish in barrels or small tubs, and they use the excrement from the fish to fertilize the plants, and then they use the plants to clarify the water to give back to the fish.
Yeah.
And I love the concept of it, and I've gone to visit a lot of people with aquaponic systems, and I say, show me your system, and they go, and every one of them, and I don't know if it just happens to be my bad luck with the half a dozen I've gone to, they say, yeah, it's just that it's not working right now. I've got a little pump problem or something, and I think there's they claim some really amazing productivity in small spaces, and I'm very excited by it. Personally, I'm much more of, I would like my systems to be a lot lower tech.
But you need a lot more room for lower tech.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Yeah. One of the really hard things to face is that we have 7 billion people on this planet. Does not support 7 billion people without fossil fuels. How many does it support? Now that's a good question, but it ain't. It's a fraction.
we're going from the traditional rows like you had to the Mel's method. I mean, I've tried the lasagna and all the little different ones and stuff, and so, but I'm thinking, okay, Mel's method is okay up to a point, and then you need to just do away with the box and just put it on the ground, and maybe just do the combination of lasagna, Mel, whatever you want to call it.
He's got some great stuff.
Yeah.
His books have a lot of great tips on it.
Yeah.
Also, I like because he's having you start in a small space. And
Right.
It's a great place to start at. Because
Right.
eventually, if you're going to want to feed yourself,
Right.
you're going to need to move to a little bit larger scale.
Yeah.
And we're so grateful for the work that the biointensive community has done. They've really thoroughly documented it, and they have germination rates and how many plants you need per bed and everything.
But I think using his method is you cut the 100 square feet and all that down quite a bit.
Well, I don't know how you could get it any closer than what John Jevons has done.
Yeah.
It really, you just can't. And Jevons even figured it out, like for radishes, you plant them, on a 4-inch spacing, and for broccoli, you plant them on an 18-inch spacing. And he's figured it out that
Right.
if you gave them more space, you'd be wasting soil. If you gave them less space, you'd lose productivity. So he's done all these amazing, year after year, studying yields and
But
spacing. And
I'm not at all familiar with his. I'm more familiar with Mel's because we
Yeah.
just got
I think
into
Mel
it
uses a hexagonal
Exactly.
pattern. Yeah.
It's very similar. I mean,
Yeah.
you space them according to a grid and everything.
Yeah, his is a
Real
great,
intensive.
it's a great method because it starts to prep you for, instead of doing it on a square foot basis, of doing it on a 50 square foot or 100 square
Right,
foot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In the back behind you there.
What are your thoughts on greenhouses, and have you had much experience with that? And are there different ways to go about that?
Yeah, thank you so much. That is the other big learning that I've learned visiting so many different bioregions, and here also. A greenhouse is really an important thing to have. Here you need it to extend, even just a small one, just to extend the season. I was complaining about I've got my tomatoes this year again. There's a lot of crops that if you don't get them started, and it's bizarre, you gotta start broccoli like end of July, and you're thinking, it's 105 degrees, you gotta figure out some way to cool them and get those seeds going, or you're not gonna have broccoli plants. That's another reason to buy your starts for the first couple of go through that hassle. The other thing about a greenhouse, now this is if you got space and you're not, I don't know, maybe you could do it in a backyard, but we regularly get hailstorms here, right?
Yeah.
Hailstorms can wipe everything out in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's gone,
Yeah.
everything. So my husband's looking at, all the sliding glass doors have
Yeah.
our safety glass.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of them at Habitat for Humanity, building a greenhouse, making it out of that. And I was shocked, even in Costa Rica, they have greenhouses, and the main reason they had it was to keep the rain off.
It seems like you'd be able to control your insects and somewhat better as well.
But they come with a whole set of other problems too, because you've got so much moisture and humidity, you've got fungal issues and bacterial issues, and greenhouses are a whole other animal. And we've got a small one that I'm working with to kind of to learn more about it. We're eventually going to build a real big one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a greenhouse is absolutely essential anywhere you go. Certainly if you're going to live in a northern climate, greenhouse is an absolute. And you have a question?
Yeah, I study with a guy who waters his garden with ocean water, and he also sprinkles rock dust.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
I'm very familiar with that, and those supplements are great as long as they're available. But I've always focused on, this kind of stuff is not going to be available at some time, and I want to be able to have my systems to where I can adapt and deal with things not being available. But yeah, we apply seaweed, and I've used some of this, the ocean, the saltwater stuff. There's a lot of minerals in that.
You spray spirulina water on your plants or something?
I haven't done the spirulina. There's a ton, and now that everybody's going green and eco-agriculture is a big thing, there's even more and more because there's a whole business in amendments, right? And I've tried to stay away from amendments or minimize them just because I don't want to I wanted to figure out all my systems using as little inputs as possible. But by all means, especially in the beginning, because most likely you're not going to have good soil. You know, and if you can afford it, go buy composter,